It's a Gandhian approach to health. So, endeavor of this division of medical humanities has been to explore the philosophical, socio-cultural, political aspects of healthcare, health systems, health education, and health seeking. And this is mainly targeted at the students, but we all also as faculty and teachers require to learn from what this division has to offer us. For today we have Sudhindra Kulkarni among us to address us on health for all, why India and the world needs a Gandhian approach. He has been former chairman and currently advisor of the Observer Research Foundation Mumbai, which is a non-partisan public policy think tank. He is a chairman of Mahatma Gandhi Center for Sanitation, Cleanliness and Community Health. Between 1998 and 2004, he served as a close aide to India's former Prime Minister Shri Atal Bihari Vajpayee in the Prime Minister's office. He is a well-known socio-political activist, author in India, and leading columnist in Indian newspapers and commentator on TV channels. He is also actively engaged in efforts to promote India-Pakistan, India-Bangladesh and India-China relationship. And along with ORF and the Reliance Foundation, he has established a Center for India-China Studies at the University of Mumbai. There are numerous books he has authored, and the foremost is The Music of the Spinning Wheel, Mahatma Gandhi's Manifesto for the Internet Age, that received worldwide appreciation. Then there is a book, August Voices, on India-Pakistan, India-Bangladesh Confederation. There are books on Swami Vivekananda and a book titled A Patriot's Pilgrimage, which is on Shri L.K. Advaniji. I welcome Shri Sudhindra Kulkarni and request Dr. LOPA Madam to welcome him with a floral tribute. Sir.
Namaskar, DR.SUPE, Dr. LOPA MEHTA, Dr. Nicholas Anton, whose oration I half listened to and with great appreciation. Distinguished teachers and my dear students, I'm very happy to be here in this hall, in this hospital and college, because I have a very close personal association with this hospital, and how close you'll soon come to know. When Dr. LOPA MEHTA ji asked me if I would accept her invitation to deliver a lecture in memory of Dr.M.V.L. Kothari, I accepted it without a moment's delay or hesitation. I regarded it as my duty to pay my respects to someone I had enormous respect for. Ever since my wife Kamakshi, who is sitting here, became a part of the K family many years ago, I came to know Dr. Kothari and Dr. LOPA MEHTA. With the passage of years, my admiration and respect for both of them grew steadily. By each meeting with them in their office was a feast to the mind. Dr. LOPA MEHTA ji was, of course, the quiet type. She spoke little. But Dr. Manu Kothari, his words outpaced the speed with which I could grasp the train of his thoughts. He spoke about medicine, science, philosophy, literature, poetry, development, and equal command on every subject. To tell you the truth, friends, I was in awe of him. His views on medicine, healthcare were too radical. However, in him, I found a true Gandhian, a Gandhian with a very modern bent of mind. I must mention here my last meeting with him. Just 14 days before his sudden demise. On 2nd October 2014, Gandhi Jayanti, I have invited him and also Dr. LOPA MEHTA to be chief guests at the inauguration of the Mahatma Gandhi Center for Sanitation, Cleanliness and Community Health. Can you see this here? Dr.Manu Kothari and Dr.LOPA MEHTA both on dais. It was a joint initiative of the Observer Research Foundation and a community-based organization called Triratna Prerna Mandal, which runs a community toilet in Santa Cruz. A truly model community toilet. I would say the best community toilet in the whole of Mumbai. It's in a slum in Santa Cruz. Dr. Manu Kothari spoke with great jest and appreciation. And even as he was inaugurating our center, our Prime Minister Narendra Modi was announcing at the same time, on the same day, the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Thus, in a sense, we had already started the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan and we were delighted that we were blessed on that day by none other than Dr. Manu Kothari. Here is a very short clip of his speech. soul. I do not know whether he had any other public engagement after this. But what he said on that day was very inspiring, as all his talks, lectures always were. Friends, I have chosen to speak today, this afternoon, on health for all, why India and the world needs a Gandhian approach. Why have I chosen this topic? For two reasons. One is, this was very close to Dr.M.V.L.Kothari's heart. Secondly, I fully believe that the noble goal of health for all can be achieved in India and the world over only with a Gandhian approach. However, before I am misunderstood, I must hastily clarify one thing. It is not at all my claim that Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy or practice provides all solutions to the attainment of the goal of health for all. But Gandhiji's philosophy or practice certainly provide a certain conceptual approach and some practical guidelines to move towards this goal. I must also at the very beginning state one more thing, that even though I am speaking on Gandhian approach, if you ask me whether I am following the Gandhian approach to health, I must say no. It's very difficult to follow Gandhi. I would say I am just a 10 paisa Gandhian. But even if we understand and follow Gandhiji 5 paisa, 10 paisa, it will make a big difference. Friends, many young students and practitioners of medicine might wonder, what does Mahatma Gandhi have to do with healthcare? Most of you perhaps know him only as a leader of the freedom movement. What does he have to do with healthcare? And since healthcare has come to mean disease care involving ever sophisticated scientific methods and high-tech equipment, you all might further wonder, in this age of modern science and technology and the internet, what is the relevance of Gandhiji, a man who chose to live in the pre-scientific era of Charkha and Khadi? Well, it's precisely this question that prompted me to study Gandhiji's thoughts on science and technology. And the result of my study, friends, was this book, Music of the Spinning Wheel, Mahatma Gandhi's Manifesto for the Internet Age. The book was published in 2012. I have attempted to show in this book that contrary to popular belief, Gandhiji had a profound respect for modern science and technology. He had deep faith in the power of science and technology to address the pressing problems of India and mankind, including the problem of healthcare. There is no sphere of human development and also no aspect of what has come to be recognized as a social infrastructure, that is education, healthcare, drinking water, sanitation, creation of sustainable livelihoods, women's empowerment, care of the vulnerable and marginalized sections of society, animal care, etc., which escaped Gandhiji's scientific attention. His 2 ashrams in South Africa and 2 more ashrams in India. Perhaps some of you know that he established in his lifetime 4 ashrams, 4 communes, 2 in South Africa, Phoenix Ashram in Durban and Tolstoy Farm near Johannesburg. And when he returned to India, after 20 years in South Africa, he established the Sabarmati Ashram in Ahmedabad and Sevagram Ashram near Wardha. These ashrams were laboratories, were R&D centers, research and development centers, in which he conducted a wide range of experiments in applied sciences. He used to tell visitors that his ashram itself was a scientific and prayerful experiment. Before I proceed, friends, I would like to show a short film that encapsulates the theme of my book.
A just, peaceful and beautiful new world is being born. A world that Mahatma Gandhi had envisioned. A vision that will be realized by the internet, an avatar of the spinning wheel.
many facets of Mahatma Gandhi's philosophy in my book. However, today I shall limit my talk only to his thoughts and experiments on health for all. So, what were Gandhi's ideas on health and how are they relevant today? Modern health science recognizes. I shall begin by talking about his thoughts on a very important precondition for good health, that is good diet. Modern health science recognizes that good diet is an important precondition for good health. Gandhiji had the same view. The starting point of research, his research, was the belief that a man becomes what he eats. A man becomes what he eats. The grosser the food, the grosser the body. This explains why he became a strong votary of vegetarianism. He also favored the virtue of frugalism in eating, that is, eat less. He says one should take just enough food for the requirements of the body and no more. The body was never meant to be treated as a refuse bin. The body was never meant to be treated as a refuse bin, holding the foods that the palate demands. For him, food was not something that just satisfied hunger. Rather, it was an integral part of shaping the human consciousness, what we call Anna Brahma. In Anna is the whole of Brahma. His personal spiritual growth was not the sole purpose of his research into dietetics. For him, food security for the poor people, that is maximum nutrition at minimum cost, was also a priority. Here again, we see Gandhiji's ingenuity in the application of his Khadi philosophy to the fulfillment of people's food needs. Just as he advocated local mass production of cloth, that is Khadi, local mass production of cloth, production by the masses of what the masses need. Local mass production of cloth using a locally grown raw material for local consumption. The Gandhi diet focused on low-cost, nutritious food articles that could be locally produced or sourced and that did not have to travel far. Bharatan Kumarappa, editor of a remarkable volume of Gandhiji's writings on diet and diet reform, has noted that Gandhiji never relied on mere theory or second-hand knowledge, but incessantly carried on experiments in diet both on himself and on his fellow ashramites. Kumarappa writes, I quote, Gandhiji experimented with ovens, vessels for cooking, quantity of water to be used, steaming, boiling, baking, determining what ingredients are to be used or avoided in cooking, various ways of making bread, manufacture of jams and murabbas out of fruits and orange skins that might otherwise be wasted or thrown away, use of green leaves as salads, preparing dishes out of oil cake and soya beans, combining various articles to constitute a balanced diet, and making up of suitable diets especially for invalids and convalescents. He had the weights of his ashramites, the people who were his followers living in his ashram. He had the weights of his ashramites recorded regularly and carefully, observed the effects of changes introduced in their diet. He took nothing for granted. His experiments were conducted with a view to finding out the most wholesome food and the wisest ways of preparing it, all the time keeping in mind the poverty of our people and their slender resources. Friends, you should remember that India was not as prosperous as it is today. Even now, it's not very prosperous for most people, but 80, 90 years ago, it was a very poor country. So Gandhiji's concern was what kind of food can be healthy and accessible and affordable to the poorest of the poor in India. And all these experiments were conducted by a man whose own meals were a study in frugality. He writes, I eat generally 8 tolas of germinating wheat, 8 tolas of sweet almonds reduced to a paste, 8 tolas of green leaves pounded, 6 lemons and 2 ounces of honey. He would also consume 1 liter of goat's milk. Why goat's milk? Why not cow's milk? Again, his experiment showed that goat's milk had greater amounts of vitamin A and minerals and was good for heart and arteries. Once he remained a fruitarian for 5 years. For 5 years, only fruits, nothing else. At another time, he experimented with eating mainly uncooked food. Gandhiji knew that his dietetic practices were the subject of ridicule in some circles, but he remained undeterred. He writes, I have been known as a crank, a faddist, a madman. Evidently, the reputation is well deserved. Now, Gandhiji had an abundant sense of humor. I'll give you a few examples. He recounts an interesting story of how his dietetic experiments on himself led him to become a proponent of uncooked food under the influence of one Sundaram Gopal Rao, a naturopath from Andhra Pradesh. Let us hear it in Gandhiji's own words. Gandhiji asked him, would you advise me to adopt entirely raw food? Sundaram Gopal Rao answers, certainly, why not? I have cured many cases of chronic dyspepsia in old men and women through a balanced diet containing germinating seeds. Then Gandhiji asks, but surely there should be a transitional stage, meaning that I can't start it all of a sudden. There must be a transitional stage that you might advise. To which Gopal Rao answers, no such transition is necessary. Uncooked food, including uncooked starch and protein, are anyway more digestible than cooked food. Try it and you will feel all the better for it. Then comes the humorous Gandhi. Gandhiji says, do you take the risk? You are telling me to take the risk. Are you willing to take the risk? If the cremation ceremony takes place in Andhra, the people will cremate your body with me. So Gopal Rao says, I take the risk. Then Gandhiji says, then send me your soaked wheat. I commence from today. Talking about his sense of humor, I slightly digress to give you 2 more examples, just to lighten the oration. Once, when Gandhiji landed in France, the French people were shocked to see him in loincloth. Winston Churchill, he described Gandhiji as a half-naked fakir. A half-naked fakir. So the French people were shocked to see this half-naked fakir. He told them with a smile, "You in your country wear plus force, but I prefer minus force." Some still kept wondering whether Gandhiji was going to meet the King of England in London or move about in a cold country and among well-dressed people in his scanty dress. Gandhiji assured them with a twinkle in his eyes, "Don't worry, the king has enough for both of us." So in spite of being very frail and in spite of being very frugal in his eating habits, friends, Gandhiji was number one in physical fitness. He used to work 18 hours a day and sometimes 21 hours a day. Now the question, are Gandhiji's experiments in dietetics still relevant for our world in the 21st century? My answer is yes. Why? Firstly, the world is suffering, our world, including in India, is suffering from both obesity and hunger and malnutrition. We must realize that the prevailing economic system, which needs for its very survival excessive consumerism among the rich and excessive deprivation among the poor, does not satisfactorily answer the basic question which self-reflective people have asked since time immemorial. And what is that question? Do human beings eat to live or live to eat? Secondly, our ancient traditions have sought to teach people the ethic of eating and fasting by combining it with the ethic of virtuous living. हम सब जानते हैं उपवास, मौन व्रत, these are advised in our ancient traditions. And Gandhiji himself, he used to keep upvas every week, sometimes more than one day in a week. And every week he would have one day of Maun Vrat, a day of what? A day of silence. Can you imagine a leader of India's freedom movement, someone so busy, but every week one day of silence. So even when the viceroy or any big leader wanted to meet him, Gandhiji would converse with them and he would give his replies in writing. No breaking of Maun Vrat. That was the discipline. Today, eating is delinked from all that adds real value and real virtue to life, unfortunately. There is a third reason why Gandhiji's experiments in dietetics are still relevant. Even though the general population cannot be expected to emulate his extremely frugal food habits, nobody can ignore the inseparable connection between food and health. What we eat, how we eat, how much we eat, significantly impact our bodily, mental, emotional and spiritual health. Gandhian philosophy understands health in this holistic sense. Unfortunately, friends, this understanding of food is not taught to us either in schools or through the media or in any other form of education. Now I come to another very important aspect of Gandhiji's philosophy and practice in healthcare, and that is his belief in nature cure. Gandhiji's passion for nature cure and holistic healthcare was an extension of his deep interest in dietetics. He had an unwavering confidence in the ability of the body and the mind to heal themselves. The ability of the body and the mind to heal themselves, given the right opportunity and conducive environment. Here again, as in the case of his approach to clothing and food, we see the application of Khadi philosophy of self-reliance. Nature cure is nothing but self-reliance, self-help. He says, in nature cure, and this is very important, in nature cure, everybody can be his or her own doctor. Not so in various other systems of medicine. In other words, the Gandhian approach to health for all means making doctors largely redundant. Largely redundant, not fully redundant. Disease, according to him, is due to a breach of nature's laws. He says, nature has provided within the human body itself the means of cleansing it, so that when illness occurs, we should realize that there exists impure matter in the body, and that is the body has commenced her cleansing process. This is his understanding of illness. Something close to, I remember Dr.M.V.L.Kothari explaining, his own understanding of what illness is and how the body suddenly starts its work of healing itself. Friends, I told you that he spent 20 transformative years in South Africa. His experiment in treating diseases with the natural curative agents only, without the use of modern drugs, had helped him gain considerable expertise during his long stay in South Africa. And he writes, something very interesting. When I practiced as a barrister, all of us know that he went to South Africa as a lawyer. So he started his work in South Africa as a lawyer, as a barrister. When I practiced as a barrister, cordial relations were established with my clients, so that we looked upon one another almost as members of the same family. The clients therefore made me a partner in their joys and sorrows. Some of them sought my advice, being familiar with my experiments in nature cure. I made many such experiments, and I do not remember to have failed in an even single case. Among his regular patients were many Europeans, for some of whom he became the family physician. Since Gandhiji had no formal education in medicine, and because his method of treatment was against the established rules of medical science, he earned the reputation in South Africa of being the first coolie doctor. You know that Indians were called coolies by the white people. So they started calling him the first coolie doctor, and of course the first coolie barrister. What he learned and did in South Africa in healthcare, he practiced on a much bigger scale in India when he came back to India. And not just with regard to individual health, but also social health. And friends, there was one big issue that made Indian society very unhealthy, and that was the curse of untouchability. The curse of untouchability, asprishyata. So, when he established the ashram, the Sevagram ashram near Vardha, curing the social disease of untouchability in the villages around Sevagram and of course all over India became a major priority for Mahatma Gandhi. He made a Harijan inmate in his ashram cook for him. Nursing the sick using naturopathy methods was his passion. He said, and a man of truth must also be a man of care. A man of truth must also be a man of care. And if I go back to what Dr. Anto was saying, a man of care must be a man of truth. He sponged his patients, gave enema and baths and applied mud or stices. He had proved for himself and also successfully tested in hundreds of cases that the simple and cheap method of mud therapy cured headaches, ordinary boils, and acted as a painkiller. Mud therapy. His caring and healing instincts would become especially stronger when he encountered patients who had been shunned by society because of the stigma attached to their ailments. And one such ailment those days was leprosy. He had special concern for leprosy patients whose wounds he would personally wash and dress. You know, in the film you must have paid attention to one particular photograph of Gandhiji. It's a very famous photograph of Gandhiji treating a leprosy patient with his own hands. That patient was an eminent Sanskrit scholar and freedom fighter, Parchure Shastri, and this is from Sevagram Ashram in 1914. The two were together in Yeravada jail in Pune. In 1922, Gandhiji treated his leprous wounds every day, a routine that was not abandoned even when he had very important political matters to deal with. He would never leave his patient, his leprosy patient. He even determined the patient's diet. Shastriji recovered after some years, thanks to the affectionate care. Going back to what you said, love. And mere love is not enough, more love. So, Shastri recovered after some years, thanks to the affectionate care and treatment he received from Gandhiji and other ashramites. It pained Gandhiji greatly to know that India was home to more lepers than Central Africa. This is about 80 years ago, not now, but leprosy was a very major health challenge. And it pained him even more that leprosy was a stigma, a social stigma. Why, he asked, should there be stigma attached to leprosy any more than any other disease? He urged his followers to work for the reintegration, rehabilitation of leprosy patients in the mainstream of society. Since there was no specific cure for leprosy those days, he fervently hoped that medical science would find one day soon a cure for this disease. And one more photograph that you might have paid attention to, Gandhiji looking into a microscope. Gandhiji, people think he was against modern science. No. What was he looking at? He was studying the germs of leprosy patients. Friends, this is very interesting. One day, some people came to him and said that we are going to inaugurate a home for leprosy patients. You please come and inaugurate. Gandhiji's answer was, he said, I regret I cannot come to open a leprosy home, but shall be very happy if you invite me to close it. Meaning the day you have to close it, meaning the day when there are no more leprosy patients, please call me, I'll be very happy to come and close it. Meaning that all of us, let's work together to bring that day very soon, that India will be free of all leprosy patients. That was his determination. And you know that the National Leprosy Mission in India was and continues to be named after Kasturba Gandhi. Friends, Gandhiji was a great believer in the virtue of preventive health care. He fervently extolled the virtues of preventive cure in his speeches. And one place he writes, I quote, I belong to that noble, growing, but the still small school of thought which believes more in prevention than in cure, which believes in nature doing things for herself even for suffering humanity, if you but let nature take her course, unquote. And then he says, I believe that the less interference there is on the part of doctors, on the part of physicians and surgeons, the better it is for humanity and its morals. The better it is for humanity and its morals. The centrality of prevention being better than cure is something I have learned even more from my wife Kamakshi, who teaches preventive and social medicine in this very college. And one of our quotes, favorite quotes, is also my favorite. It is from the standard textbook of preventive medicine by Dr. Park. What is that quote? It says, medicine is a social and political science, and politics is nothing but medicine on a larger scale. So in this sense, Gandhiji was a very accomplished practitioner of both medicine and politics. Friends, I would like to now turn to something very important. That is, Gandhiji was a very original, not just a practitioner of healthcare, but a philosopher of healthcare. You know, he authored a very remarkable book on nature cure. It's titled Key to Health. While he was imprisoned in Aga Khan Palace in Pune during 1942 and 1944. This is the book, Key to Health. You know, it's available in the Gandhi bookshop, in the Sarvodaya bookshop. It's only 15 rupees. You never get any book on medicine, healthcare this cheap. But please read it if you're interested. I think it is one of the most fundamental works of philosophy of healthcare. And I'll try to explain briefly. He says, anyone who observes the rules of health mentioned in this book will find that he has got in it a real key to unlock the gates leading him to health. He will not need to knock at the doors of doctors or vaidyas from day to day. In this book, Gandhiji propounded his belief that the human body is universe in miniature. It's a profound thought. Human body is universe, entire universe in miniature. Yat pinde tat brahmande. जो ब्रह्मांड में है वही पिंड में है. He writes, the universe within reflects the universe without. It follows therefore that if our knowledge of our body could be perfect, you would know the entire universe. If we know ourselves, we would know the entire cosmos. In Key to Health, Gandhiji explains the healing powers of earth, air, water, sun, akash, sky, that is, food and condiments. He also describes the health-destroying qualities of intoxicants, opium and tobacco. He devotes many pages of this book to elucidate his views on brahmacharya, a very misunderstood topic. You know, when people think of Gandhiji and brahmacharya, they have all, very strange notions. That's not the topic of my talk today, but I urge you to study, if you're interested, Gandhiji's thoughts on brahmacharya. His thoughts on the therapeutic quality of the sky, that is Akash, are highly original. And please pay attention to these lines. He says, the more we utilize this great element Akash, the healthier we will be. The first lesson to be learned is that we should not put any partitions between ourselves and the infinite sky, which is very near and yet very far away. we should not put any partitions between ourselves and Akash. If our bodies could be in contact with the sky without the intervention of houses, roofs, or even clothes, we are likely to enjoy the maximum amount of health. This is not possible for everyone. He admits that this is not possible for everyone. But all can and should accept the validity of the statement and adapt life accordingly. To the extent that we are able to approach the state in practice, we will enjoy contentment and peace of mind. Now, this train of thought that there should be no partition between ourselves, our bodies and Akash, if you extend this train of thought, it leads us to another fundamental thought. When even the body becomes an obstacle, separating man from the infinite, when the body becomes an obstacle separating man from the infinite, to understand this truth is to become indifferent to the dissolution of the body, indifferent to death, because then the real self gets united with the universe. For to lose oneself in the infinite is to find oneself. Very interesting. It's a mystical thought. To lose oneself in the infinite is to find oneself. The body thus ceases to be a vehicle for self-indulgence. This must mean service of mankind, and through it, finding God. Gandhiji tells us that his desire to be in tune with the infinite saved him from many complications in life. How? Again, I use his words. It led me merely to simplicity. It led not merely to simplicity of household and dress, but all-round simplicity in the mode of my life. In a nutshell, I have gone on creating more and more contact with Akash. With the increase in the contact came improvement in health. I had more contentment and peace of mind, and the desire for belongings almost disappeared. He who will establish contact with the infinite possesses nothing and yet possesses everything. A person who establishes contact with the infinite possesses nothing but possesses everything. In the ultimate analysis, man owns that of which he can make legitimate use and which he can assimilate. This is Isha Vakya Vidam Sarvam, the Isha Upanishad. I must also mention, friends, the very original thought on the philosophy of fasting. The healing qualities of the emptiness of Akash within our bodies. What is fasting? Fasting, he says, is the philosophy and the practice of creating emptiness in our bodies. By regular fasting, he says, we must not fill up our digestive tract with unnecessary foodstuffs. We should eat only as much as we need and no more. An occasional fast, say once a week or once a fortnight, will keep the balance even. If one is unable to fast for the whole day, one should miss one or more meals during the day. Then he says, nature abhors, this is a philosophical thought. Nature abhors vacuum is only partially true, we all have learned, in science, in popular literature, that nature does not like vacuum. If there is a vacuum, it suddenly fills it. Gandhiji says something different. He says, nature abhors vacuum is only partially true. Nature constantly demands vacuum. Nature demands vacuum. The vast space surrounding us in the universe is the standing testimony to the truth. We see here, friends, how Gandhiji challenges conventional wisdom, which holds that nature avoids vacuum. He ingeniously explains that vacuum, or the state of nothingness, is also a natural reality and beneficial to human health and happiness in certain circumstances. This profound thought echoes Zen and other mystical philosophies around the world, all of which regard nothingness as sacred. Nothingness is sacred. It's a very profound philosophy. I come from Karnataka. Many of the Kannada philosophers, there is a philosophy called Shunya Sampadane. Means the purpose of life is to earn nothingness. Shunya. That is the ideal state to reach. Of course, the crowning glory of his work in Nature Cure was his establishment of a Nature Cure Center in Urli Kanchan. I do not know how many of you know the Nature Cure Center near Urli Kanchan in Pune, near Pune. He established it in 1946. And this is interesting, 1946, the freedom movement was at its peak. Just one year away, India would get freedom. So everybody was so busy, and so was Gandhiji. And yet, he found time to establish a Nature Cure Center in Urli Kanchan. He spent several months treating poor people there, because he believed that the poor people cannot afford hospitals, expensive doctors, so Nature Cure. And very interesting that during those days, Vallabhbhai Patel, Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel fell ill. So Gandhiji writes to Patel, he says, "You are ill? Come to me. I'll heal you. I have established this Nature Cure at Urli Kanchan." And Sardar Patel comes all the way from Delhi to this small village, Urli Kanchan, where Gandhiji treats him with his own hands and treats him successfully. These are, friends, great pages in our history. I'll come to the last part of my speech, my oration, and that is, even though he believed in Nature Cure, in frugal eating, all this, he was not against modern science. This is very important. He was not at all against modern science. He believed in Ayurveda, but he used to tell Ayurvedic practitioners to give up their arrogance when they stated that they have a cure for everything. He said, this is arrogance. No system has cure for everything. Everybody should learn from each other's systems. He says, I do like everything that is ancient and noble, but I utterly dislike a parody of it. I utterly dislike a parody of it. And I must respectfully refuse to believe that ancient books are the last word on the matters treated in them. That the ancient books, be it Vedas, Upanishads or whatever, they are not the last words on knowledge. As a wise heir to the ancients, I am desirous of adding to and enriching the legacy inherited by us. Which means that whatever is rich we should take, but we should enrich it further with modern science, modern technology. Now I began, friends, by showing you a picture of Dr.M.V.L.Kothari inaugurating the Mahatma Gandhi Center for Sanitation, Cleanliness and Community Health in 2014. So a few words about Gandhiji and sanitation, Gandhiji and Swachhata. You know, you will not find any other example anywhere in the world of a leader of a national liberation movement or a revolutionary movement who paid as much attention to something like sanitation, toilets. You know, in his ashram, he used to clean not only his own toilet, but even the ashramites' toilets with his own hands. He said, I am proud to call myself a scavenger. Why did he attach so much importance? Because he wrote that if we do not keep our backyards clean, our Swaraj will have a foul stench. He wrote this before India gained independence. Now it's 70 years since India is independent, and still our Swaraj, our freedom, has foul stench because we have not been able to provide clean toilets for all our citizens. And which is why it is a good thing that our Prime Minister has launched the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, and he has made Mahatma Gandhi the icon, the promoter of the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. Because Gandhiji used to say that our lavatories are a disgrace to our civilization. Look at this man, who attached so much importance to something that other people would simply neglect. Be it sanitation, leprosy cure, everything. He was, as I'm trying to show, he was many, many things in just one person. So, it is important for us to understand Gandhiji's philosophy in its fullness. I am not saying, as I said right at the beginning, that Gandhiji and his philosophy provide all the answers to the health problem before India or the rest of the world. Since his death in 1948, science has made enormous progress, especially health science. And you all know much, much better than I do. We have entered the age of the fourth industrial revolution, the age of artificial intelligence, the age of robotic surgery, the age of 3D printing, the 3D printing of body parts, including someday very soon, the 3D printing of liver, possible. Now this is the age that we have all this is welcome. We should welcome this, but we should always be guided. And here I am only endorsing and repeating what my previous speaker spoke. We should always be guided by the goal of health for all, not health for some, and disease for others, neglect of others, as is happening today. We should always keep in mind, and not just medical practitioners, but I would also say the policy makers in health, they should also be guided by their own version of the Hippocratic Oath. Sarve bhavantu sukhinaha, sarve santu niramaya. Happiness for all, health for all. That should be our guide. And for this, we should combine ancient knowledge and modern knowledge. We should not neglect one and only embrace the other. That was not Gandhiji's Swadeshi idea. There are many places he says that Swadeshi does not mean blind rejection of the foreign. Swadeshi and foreign go together. So therefore I believe that Gandhiji was both thankful to Dr. LOPA MEHTA ji and KM Hospital for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on Mahatma Gandhi, on healthcare, on something that we have been talking about, health for all. Alma Mater Declaration, health for all by 2000. Now we are in 2018, we have still not reached the Millennium Development Goals, the Sustainable Development Goals. We are far, far away from reaching the goal of health for all. And therefore, let us commit ourselves, you as students of medicine, teachers of medicine, and we, those who are interested in making India a better nation for all. We all should work together and move rapidly towards the goal of health for all. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.
One is non-discrimination and the second one is quest for cleanliness. I think we will have conquered the major problems which our society, health problems which our society used to be. So thank you so much. I request Lisa to participate Sudhindra Kulkarni. I thank Dr. Antau, Dr. Ram Prabhu sir, Dean sir, MEHTA madam, and all my senior teachers and the students for attending this session today. There are two announcements. One is about the Ascension, which is coming up on 9th and 10th of March. So you are requested to register for the same. And second is refreshments are waiting for you outside.